This episode is brought to you by the outstanding shows of the You Run Podcast Network. From TV to true crime and everything in between, the network is your home of entertainment. So don't delay. Join in with the fun at yourunpodcast.com today.
Mark, what's the difference between a dead hooker and podcasting with me?
No, there's a question. I don't know. What is the difference?
Podcasting with me still sucks.
You want to die tonight?
The dad jokes you tell sets the scene. I hang on every word lost in the screen. The passion for fear is contagious enough. You make me believe in Mark's overblown roundups. You run podcasts or a movie review, unveiling facts and playing games too. Your words paint pictures of darkness and dread, leaving me grinning long after I fled.
Hello and welcome to the You Run Podcast Horror Movie Review. My name is Scott.
My name is Mark.
And before we get going today, I want to talk about something quite quickly that's quite serious. So last week, the horror community lost a legend. Those of you who know Lady Crisis will probably know this already, but her grandpa passed away. There's not really much I can say about her grandpa, apart from he was an incredible guy who brought lots of entertainment to me personally. And because of the relationship I had with my grandfather, like watching him and Mary was like, it felt really personal to me. It felt like I got a sneak peek into their world. And this week's episode, me and Mark want to dedicate to him. And later on, there's going to be a segment within TikTok Talks, which is one of his videos that is really, really cool because all of his videos are, but also something I hid from Mark around the time we done Jaws and Deep Blue Sea.
I haven't seen this, so I don't know what it is you're referring to.
No.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's very sad to hear of his passing. Great guy. I didn't have the relationship like you mentioned with your grandparents, so I was always very envious of seeing the videos and the tight-knit bond the two of them had. So yeah, it's really, really sad. Really sad.
Yeah.
So Mary, if you're listening, condolences. I send out my best. I really do.
Yeah, we send out all the love in the world to you. And the movie this week, Grandpa would have absolutely despised, which I feel is so on brand for the relationship.
Do you think he would? Do you think he would? I think he would have liked this.
Do you think? I think the segment of this he would have really enjoyed, but I think overall he would have gone, "That's crap." We are a horror movie review podcast. We talk about horror movies. We are interactive, which a lot of shows are now becoming, but we're very interactive. So you pick the movies, you get involved with lots of interactive features, and we just all kind of have fun along the way. You can get in touch with us by sending us an email, yourunpodcast@gmail.com. You can also leave us an audio voicemail on Instagram or X. Just go to where you send a DM, push and hold the microphone button, speak, and we will get that on the show. We're running a competition at the moment to win some of our wonderful merchandise, which I'm going to show you now, but I don't have it. There it is. And if you do that like Heather does, you can put your head in the T-shirt.
Ooh.
There we go.
Well, I've never done that before.
So you can win 3 pieces of merchandise from our store. All you need to do is leave us a review on Apple or Spotify, screenshot it and send it to me. If you've already done that, you can still enter every single week between now and the end of the year. Just leave us a comment on a Spotify episode, and that's one entry into the draw. So yeah, do that. We have some messages this week. Where are they? Yes, I'm gonna divulge something now. Me and Mark are doing a midweek recording, so we're recording on a Wednesday, and normally it's a Friday. And today I sort of threw everything together, and I feel so unprepared. I don't know where anything is, and Yeah, it's going to be a
It feels
shambles.
weird. I'm like in a hotel in the middle of nowhere, and yeah, it feels very strange to be out of my natural habitat. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, it's weird seeing you where like I get freaked out when you move from your office into your home. I'm like, your scenery has changed. Right, I have found the messages though, so thank you for buying me some time.
You're
We're going to
welcome.
start with this one.
Hey guys, I am actually listening to your Sharknado 5 episode right now. Hold on one second. My son is drawing on my wall with chalk. Okay. Anyways, I'm listening to it, and that's Chris Kattan. He is the annoying shorter brother that was in Night at the Roxbury with Will Ferrell, the shorter guy. He's also been on SNL for like a million years. So that's him. He's the one that plays the prime minister, and he is super annoying and didn't have a super big movie film career after. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, again, like I recognize the name. The name as soon as she said it, I was like, oh yeah, that's that guy. But I can't think of him from anything.
No, I can't. And like when we spoke about it last week, I'm like, I have no idea who you are. I know you're a
Yeah.
cameo because they're making a big thing of you being a cameo, but yeah, you could be
Oh no,
Billy
like
from
I
down the road.
recognized his face. Like I knew he was somebody important. And I feel like I don't know why, but I'm drawn to think he's like a cameo in Adam Sandler movies, but that's probably wrong. But then again, with the SNL ties, maybe he is.
Maybe. I don't know. Heather. Heather is now the You Run podcast internet movie database for us.
The fact checker.
The fact checker. Right, we have this message as well.
Mark, I was giving you a pass. Opinions are opinions. I can understand why you don't like Battle Royale. But the claim is stood in the corner cowering. I just have to chirp up. See, you are wrong. You're often wrong. So
Fact.
that's fine. But it comes a point where you just got to accept that you are by far in the minority on this. So just sit back down, get back into your little box, and carry on spouting about bloody the blue sea. And if you sorry, got cut off. I was going on to say, and if you don't like it, you have my address. Look forward to seeing you soon.
The funny thing is, Dave actually did message me his address. I can't remember what episode it was that I was calling him out on. I said
Yeah,
I was going to go and fight him.
you were going to go and fight him, and his response was, "There's my address. Come see me." And you went,
Yeah, he actually sent me his address, like postcode, number, house, street address, a lot. He was like, "Yeah, here I am."
massively called your bluff, which is amazing.
Yeah, he fully did. I ain't got the time or the effort to do that, Dave. But if I see you in the street, you better watch yourself, boy.
The beef between Dave and Mark is real. Right, we've got one more.
Hi guys, loved the Sharknado episode, although the film sounds like trash, but you know, I'll probably still watch it. Just wanted to say what a lovely email that person sent, and I really hope that if they're out there, they join the Insta community, because they would be welcome with open arms and come talk to us all about horror. One thing I got to point out, I loved the game, love that the games are back. But also, one thing I do miss, because I want to thank you guys for, I wouldn't really be in the position I am with my page, I don't think, without your guys' support. Back when I first started, I know you were doing Mark's recommended account of the week, and you gave me a mention that once, and I do believe all your support after that as well really helped me. So I think you should bring back Mark's recommended account of the week, because it cut me off. That's all I wanted to say.
I too think we should bring back Mark's recommended account of the week. I was a hero amongst men when we were doing that. But Scott, for some reason, just stopped randomly adding it in. And I couldn't be arsed. It got to the end of the episode and it's like, I'm sure this is recommended of the week time. And then he just stopped doing it. So I just stopped doing the recommended account of the weeks. And then here we are. So call into Scott. Tell him what the fuck's going on, man.
But if you want to bring it back, we can bring it back.
I would like to bring it back. I enjoyed doing recommended account of the week.
Should we, because we're very well organized, should we bring it back starting with our Christmas episode? So when we start in December, we'll bring it back then and roll it into the new year.
Yes, I would enjoy that very much. That gives me also a lot of time to prepare.
That was the whole point behind that, because little do people know, there are many times we got to recommended account, and there would be a pause where I would pause it while Mark found his recommended account, and then we'd start recording again. So yeah, let's do that then. So yes, recommended account is back. We're starting in December with a You Run podcast. That's kind of how this show works. You want something, ask for it, and you get it. So yeah, today we are taking you through a tale of love. After the girlfriend of a failed medical student accidentally kills herself with a radio controlled lawnmower that he made, it's okay because he has the skills to rebuild her. He's just lacking the parts and a lot of lightning. With some planning, some luck, and a whole room of exploding hookers, he will soon fix this problem too and give birth to his upgraded version of his girlfriend. There is more planning that was required, though, and I'm sure we will cover that when we get to it.
Oh, definitely.
Today, it's our pleasure to bring you our review of the 1990s classic, iconic piece of cinema, Frankenhooker.
I'm going to be honest with you, man. I don't know where to start this week. There is a lot I want to discuss, and there's a lot I want to dive into. But actually pinpointing a start point, I'm going to leave that to you, I think.
I want to start with the bit at the beginning where you've got the like family barbecue, the birthday for his future father-in-law, and he's occupied his mother-in-law's kitchen table with a brain with an eyeball on it, and he's trying to make it follow his hand.
Yeah.
Like, from that moment on, it's like I am 100% everything I've got in for this movie.
I was a little bit confused by this point. I didn't really know because he set it up as like this whole white picket fence suburban sort of aesthetics, the way the color scheme is, and it looks great. It looks great.
Yeah.
And surprisingly enough, considering this opened with a Roger Corman production, Trauma, I was like, shit, I didn't know this was a Trauma movie. And then for it to transition from the opening credit sequence explaining that it is a Trauma movie into such a almost high quality production, I was like, this doesn't feel right. This looks way better than any Trauma movie I've ever seen before. What's going on here? It took me a while to adjust, I'll be honest with you.
That it doesn't take him long to dial it back into, yes, this is Trauma.
I mean, it does, but it never ever really hits that point for me. I didn't find. I mean, the practical effects, yes. As soon as you see the practical effects, you're like, oh yeah, okay, this is Trauma level stuff, which I love, by the way. That's not a criticism, but I think overall, in terms of like direction, cinematography, the lighting, and things like that, even the acting is far, far more impressive than anything else I've seen before from this production company.
Patty Mullen, who plays Frankenhooker, her acting is actually impeccable in this. Her, like, where she has her little jolts and pulls the funny faces, like every time she does anything or says anything, I find myself giggling. Like she's
Yeah.
brilliant. And the young guy, I would liken him to a very young Michael J. Fox. He's got that kind of vibe about him.
Yeah, or like who's a guy who plays Robert California on The Office? Not David Spade. Oh, how do I not know this guy's name? He was like in all the erotic movies back in the 90s. Heather, who's the guy who plays Robert California in The Office? She'll tell us. But he reminds me quite a lot of that guy. But again, like considering like the first, obviously we have the accident at the beginning, but then after that, it is literally Jeffrey Franken for
Yeah.
a good hour, an hour. I think it's 56 minutes before he actually gets anywhere near creating the monster. And there's only 20 minutes of the movie left after that. So he does a fantastic job of carrying the movie throughout. His monologues, his whole investability throughout. I think it's perfect. He does a fantastic job of carrying this movie on his own.
Yeah, I think he's really good. And like the the opening bit, how much did you laugh when she ran herself over with the lawnmower?
Yeah, yeah. I would have preferred it not to do a cutaway segment, but yeah, they set her up as that very bimbo-y kind of girl that it's almost sort of acceptable for it to be such a simplistic way to go. I know it's
Yeah,
purposeful for the plot, but it's a fucking lawnmower. Do you know what I mean? Like, just
it
sidestep a little bit.
yeah, and, like, after that, when he has, like, his manic depressive phase, and, yeah, I accept that your girlfriend killed herself with the lawnmower you made, I understand why you're upset. Like, that whole segment with him in his room, and he's, like, writing out, like, drawing, like, the map of the body. His mum is the most accurate depiction of a mum in a movie ever.
In what
She
way?
ca in the way that he's obviously going through something, and she's an 80s mum. She's not equipped to deal with what he's going through. So she's like, "Yeah, well, this woman at work, like her daughter's the same age as you. You need to just get out in the world and get on with life. You can't sit in your room and rot forever." And he's like, "I'm really going through something. I'm really struggling." She's like, "Yeah, so shall I tell her you're free next week?" Like, that is 100% how I remember parenting or being parented as a kid. Like, if I had a problem, it was very much a, "Yeah, you're all right. Go on, just get out there. You'll be fine." Like, that's how it was done back then.
Yeah, yeah, it's weird. It's weird. It really is, because I had that relationship with my mother to the point that when I became an adult and actually understood feelings and emotions and stuff that weren't masqueraded by pretentiousness that you're supposed to accept in the 80s and 90s, having a genuine conversation was a weird transition. And I
Yeah.
think my wife still has that relationship with like her mother and her grandparents, where it's like, no, you can't say that. I'm like, but why can't you say that? It's like, well, because that's just not how things are. Like, you don't, do you know what I mean? And then they live this life where it's like, you can't say this because she won't like that. So you both just live in this world where neither of you say what you're actually feeling, and you just fall in line to some sort of military parenting daughter relationship. It's wild. As a man, you know what I mean? I got to an age where I was like, this is fucking weird, mum. Why are we talking like this? You know, but it is the norm. It is the norm how so many people grew up until we got to the age of social media, where you have gentle parenting and all the rest of it. And people sort of learn, which is weird that we took social media to realize how to actually communicate with people on a normal level without pretentiousness. But I know I'm rambling, but people know what I'm talking about. It's so
Oh,
weird,
I
that
do.
false
Yeah.
barrier that people have based on what is categorized as normality. Um, in relationships, it's strange. It's strange. I digress completely, but yes, this
Yeah.
segment with I don't know where I was going with that. I just had a weird sort of light bulb moment that made me go, actually, yeah, I grew up like that. That was weird, and yeah, it was. Um, that moment where he has the videotape as he's
Yeah.
mourning in the room is the best moment in the entire movie. If you've seen Frankenhooker and you've like missed a few bits, or you've only watched it the once, go back and just watch the tape segment where he puts a videotape in, and it's the news article of her death with the
Yes.
news interviewers. That is one of the most hilarious things I have ever seen in my life. And I can't remember verbatim what they actually said, but she was like referring to it, do you know, like in a proper news reporter way, where they over accentuate everything and they use like like really drastic words to describe
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And what was I can't remember. I literally was like, I'm going to talk about this on the podcast because it was fucking brilliant. And then he ended up referring to her as being like a salad, and like it's like bits of her everywhere, and it's like salad. Oh man, I'm massively
Yeah.
underselling it. But go
She
back and
she's
watch it.
spread
It's fucking
she's
great.
spread all over town, and we can't find her all. She's literally a salad. Like, that's the way
It
they
was,
deliver it.
but it goes on, and then like as it starts off really simplistic, but it grows and grows and grows to the point where it's just saying some of the most absurd stuff, but in such a monotone delivery, and I'm like, this is fucking epic.
Yeah, it's very much welcome to the news. Today, lady spread over her garden after being put through a lawnmower. She now looks like a chopped salad. Later on the news, is that kind of delivery. It's
It is,
so
but it
dry.
keeps growing. Like the descriptive nature of the incident keeps growing and growing and growing to a more vulgar manner, but the monotone delivery of the article is just
It's
the
the
same
same.
all the way. It honestly is fucking comedy gold on such an undercut and underappreciated way if you're not really paying attention, because it's one of those moments in the movie as well where you're not supposed to really pay attention to it, but it's there. And if you do listen to what she's actually saying, you're like, wow, this woman is wild.
Yeah, and like I think this is one of the movies that we can't jump around too much because, like, if we jump forward 5 minutes, if no
Yeah.
one's seen this and they're using us as a guide, they are going to have no fucking clue what we're talking about. So,
Oh, and just to be clear, if you haven't seen this movie, do not listen to this episode because this is one of those ones that is definitely worth the payoff seeing it blind, as I did.
yeah, yeah, because this is your first watch, which
It was.
I messaged you earlier. My exact message was, "For the love of God, please tell me you like this."
I know, and the thing is, I've been on a bit of a downer recently as well.
You have.
I've been hitting hard on some like decent movies for no real reason apart from Battle Royale, which deserved all it got. But I've just been like constantly, even with the Sharknado episode, man, it breaks my soul to know that I give that a low score. But I'm not feeling it at the moment. I think this was the revitalization that I needed.
Yeah, and like for me, this was I've seen this loads of times, but I watched this with Lisa and I watched it with Kane, and that like Kane especially, Kane's
I was
reaction
going
to
to say, I
this is
bet Kate loved this.
he's like at the beginning, he's got almost like a puzzled look on his face, and that puzzled look stayed there right up until where we get to the hookers, which is coming soon. And then it went from puzzled to joy, and then back to puzzled through to the end of the movie. And afterwards, he's like, "What did I just watch?" I was like, "Did you like it?" He's like, "I think so." Like he was so baffled by the whole thing. But yeah, the fact that Franken has stolen the head, the severed head and hand of his fiance, and he's keeping them in like a chest freezer in his garage, and he goes out and has dinner with her. If you take the comedy element away from that, that is the most unsettling serial killer shit I've ever seen in a horror movie. Ever.
I mean, it is, but it's not. Like, he hasn't killed her himself. He's just grieving, man. Do you know what I mean? Give the guy some space.
Yeah, but he kept her head. Like he went out and actively stole her head from the crime scene, knowing that he had the skill set to bring her back, but needed like enough power and needed enough parts, which leads him to the dilemma he's in. So
Exactly. This is the greatest love story of a generation.
so there's a storm coming, and he realizes the storm, because it's a Frankenstein style movie, will be enough to reanimate the dead corpse of his girlfriend. But he needs body parts. I love this segment just purely because it's the most wild way to make a decision. So he's like, he's meant to be this weird, like, doctor savant, and he takes a drill to his own head to
Yeah, like Chop Shop from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
yeah, he like drills holes in his head to certain parts of his brain to activate his thought process. And I'm like, that is wild. And it doesn't bleed, which is like, why is it not bleeding? It really bugged me that it didn't bleed.
It's a trauma movie, man. Do you know what I mean? The drill wasn't real and it actually retracted inside of it. You do know
Yeah,
that.
I'm aware of that, but I expected like at least have the effort to make paint the drill bit red so I can at least believe it went somewhere. The drill bit come out like shiny new.
Yeah, yeah. It was weird. It was weird because like they don't build him. I know they build him up as like a strange sort of reclusive character, but when he started drilling his own brain, like lobotomizing himself, I was like, "This is wild. Like, what? How have we got here?"
Yeah, because there's no build to that. It literally comes out of nowhere. He's like, I need to think, I need to clear my head. What can I do? What can I do? And he looks at this little diagram he's got of a brain and goes, right, C4. And then he just pulls out a drill, changes the drill bit, and just like whacks it in the side of his head. I'm like, okay, right, fine. If that's
I
what
do
we're
love
doing.
how it's handled though, because like he's in a state of confusion and then he drills it once and has this brainwave idea, and then like he contemplates a little bit. He's like, no, that's not good enough. And then he drills a second time. It's like, we can do better.
The thing is, though, if you could get ideas like that, I'd have so many holes in my head. Like every time I get like stumped on a game to play, I'd be like, nee.
Would you really?
Yeah, like the show would be so much better if I need a drill. Can one of the listeners send me a drill, please? We'll make the show
I
so
think
much
you would
better.
be a constant state of vegetable if that was how you were planning on running the show.
This is very true. His plan is to go and harvest the body parts of hookers, which takes us into, I'm going to call it Hookerville because that's the only way I can describe it.
Yes.
His disguise is fucking genius. Just puts on a suit and a big pair of glasses so he looks slightly older and a little bit more pervy than he did before.
Yeah. He looks full Jeffrey Dahmer at this point as he's patrolling the streets of
He,
Tromaville looking
he
for
really
prostitutes.
is. And the prostitute he meets, and he's going, I need girls. I need lots of girls. She's like, you don't need lots of girls. And then just flops her boobs out. I was like, oh,
She was great.
yeah.
I would have just taken her personally. If I was looking for the perfect body, I was like, yeah, you'll do. You will do nicely.
Honestly, I had a moment of shock and went, there's boobs. And they're not being put away. Like, no, she's just going to stand there and have a whole like 6-minute conversation with him with her tits like hanging in his car window.
Yep.
Like
Yeah, it's
he
great,
got
isn't it?
it's really good. And like then another girl, it's such a good movie. Then another girl comes over and he's like, no, I need many more. And she's like, you need to come and meet Zorro. Like, who the fuck is
Yes,
Zorro? Zorro is how I picture you if you'd have spent more time in the gym and didn't get married.
If I was addicted to steroids.
Yes.
He's a guy. He is a man. I'll be honest with you. He is a man. Thing is though, like being that big must be uncomfortable.
Yeah, like just like turning and bending and like normal things.
Yeah,
Like
just
how
general
does
moving
how
ability.
yeah, how does he scratch his ass? He can't. His arm can't do that. His arm can't
No.
go backwards like that.
I often think that about really, really big men is just like, why? Like why be that way? Do you know what I mean? Like what is the general benefit to being such a hulking man? I mean, don't get me wrong, like you look physically impressive, but like you're so limited by what you can and can't do apart from lifting weights in the gym.
And pulling women who tend to like really muscular men. They're probably really
But
good at doing that.
They don't though. That's the thing. Women don't necessarily really like. I mean, I don't know. I might just be delusional because I'm not that
We
kind of guy. But I don't
we
think
have
men.
a 40-something% female audience base. Ladies of the You Run podcast audience, call in. Muscles or dad bod? I want
Not
to
even
know.
necessarily dad bod, but I just mean like if the poll was Arnold Schwarzenegger or Robert Pattinson. Like Robert Pattinson's a fit and active man. Do you know what I mean? He's not like shredded to the point where he can't fit in a regular size shirt.
Yeah.
Or Arnold Schwarzenegger who struggles to fucking scratch his own back. Like which one is the most aesthetically pleasing to a female is what I'd like to know.
Yeah, call in and let us know. He meets Zorro. Did you notice the couple, or sorry, the three people in the cubicle behind Zorro? Like I couldn't
Yeah.
take my eyes off it. It made me laugh so much. There's a hooker in the stall, and there's a bloke having sex with a hooker, and there's another guy in there who like the door keeps opening as they're having sex, and he keeps pulling it too, and then they bang a bit
That was
more.
his job.
Yeah, that was his job, just to keep closing that door. Like that just cracked me up because I'm like, that's so weird. Like you don't need that there. Why have you put it there? Because I'm not watching Zorro now. I'm just watching that because I'm expecting there to be some sort of payoff gag there, but there isn't. It's just that for the whole scene.
And that's it. That's one thing I love about trauma movies is just how much they build upon strangeness. One thing I found myself doing a lot was looking out for repeating characters. So like I haven't seen an awful lot of trauma movies, so I don't know what the crossover level is. I know obviously it's all set within the same location as Traumaville. Even though this movie is explicitly stated to be New York, because Jeffrey is from Jersey, I was like, oh, I wonder if these characters from like Class of Nukem High or even the
Yeah,
best one yet, Killer Condom. But we didn't quite get that. I was just expecting like a Class of Nukem High cameo as one of like the punk kids walked past. It's now in his later life smoking crack in the toilets of a whorehouse and stuff.
yeah.
But it
The
never
problem is
happened. It was disappointing.
my knowledge of Troma's not enough to pick up on them, even if they were there. Long and short of it, Zorro agrees to him having a group of girls, and he says, "Look, you can come back tomorrow. I'll give you half an hour. You can go and do what you need to with the girls, measure them, check them, find the one you want, and then after you've chosen the one you want, you can then take that perfect girl and do with her as you please. But it's going to
Yeah.
cost you." That scene when he is in the hotel room with the 7 or 8 hookers and he is just measuring them up and measuring their legs, and like he has the golden job in Hollywood that day.
Ah, brilliant. Because again, there's just boobs everywhere. Like they're all very scantily clad. And he is just crawling in between their legs and measuring their bums and their legs and their thighs. And
It
it
was
looks amazing time.
it's where he gets the magnifying glass and he zooms in on the nipple and then he just pushes it like a button and goes boop.
Yeah, well, what he says when he does that, it's like, oh, something like good springback or something.
Good spring. Like, could you imagine if you like got your missus, she's laying in bed, and you just like poked her nipple and went, good spring back, that is. There's a 50-50 chance you're getting a slap for that.
Yeah, the night's certainly not going the way you planned it to.
No, and like before he goes and does this, he works out that the girls are addicted on crack as well, and he takes some crack, he buys some crack off of Zorro and makes his own super crack.
Yes.
And like he's there and he measures all these girls, and at the end of the 30 minutes, they're like, who are you picking? Who are you going with? You need to tell us. And he's like, no, I don't know. And then they sort of wrestle the bag off of him to get the money because he's having doubts of whether he can actually go through with killing them because the super crack kills them.
Yeah. I mean, he offers them the money up. He's like, here, take the money. I can't make my mind up. I can't go through with this. Take the money if that's all you want. And he throws in the bag, and the bag also contains the super crack, at which the prostitutes find it, and they just go in a fucking frenzy. And this whole entire 5-minute segment is hilarious. They're all getting fully cracked up whilst getting undressed and living their best life on crack cocaine.
It's
super crack cocaine, by the way.
it's his moral compass. So there's a bit where the 2 girls are kissing. He's going, "Don't do that. Jesus doesn't like that. Stop." I'm like, come on, man. You've hired a room with 8 hookers. You can't now all of a sudden develop some morals and go, that's not right.
No, so let's talk about the next segment then. So they've all taken super crack. Where
yeah,
does
and
this
this
go
is
next? I'm going to let you take it.
Run for cover, you dirty slut!
I genuinely do not know how to go through this. So the super crack makes one of the girls really hot, and she starts
Well,
sweating.
he experiments it on the hamster first, doesn't he, in his lab?
Yeah, and the hamster splits into a perfect split of 4. Like it looks like someone's cut a cake. When the girls split, if that's what we're going to call it, it's there's a very clear cut from where it goes from girl going, "Oh, I'm really hot," and she starts shaking a bit, and there's a bit of smoke. There's a very clear cut to where she stepped away. They've put a mannequin in there and then pushed a button to make the mannequin explode.
Yes, and it looks terrible. I'll be honest with you. And one thing that I don't get about it is like fireworks, like the sparks instead of like being blood and gore. It's like a robot exploding. I do know factually that the reason they did this is because NC-17 rating had just been introduced at the same time of this release. They were trying to avoid the X rating and they were trying to avoid the NC-17 rating. So they played more into the humor aspect of the explosions than anything else. I was personally in a position where I was like, that probably would have been more effective if it had been more gore-filled, which I know is possible because the director of this movie is the same guy who did Brain Dead and Basket Case. So I know what he's
Yes.
capable of, and I know what he can bring to the table. So the decision to go down this route, although more based on politics and actual anything else, I would have preferred. I would have preferred a much more gory aspect. But at the same time, I still laughed my ass off, which
I
was
laughed a
what they
lot.
intended to do. That was the intention of this
The,
practical works here. They was doing it for the comedic value, and they delivered on that. It was funny as
the
fuck.
the one that made me laugh the most was the girl that's like trying to crawl away on all fours, and someone's had to pose a mannequin in doggy style position to blow it up. Like that cracks me up. I thought that was brilliant. But from that, he gets all the body parts he needs, loads them into his car, sneaks down the fire escape, loads them into his car, and drives home. Where we get the construction phase of Frankenhooker. Like this whole to Frankenstein, this whole homage to the original 1931 Frankenstein is so good and so on point and done in a really it's a real paying homage as opposed to taking the piss out of it. And I really appreciated the effort they went to, like with the antenna and with all of the potions and with all the lightning. Like this whole segment is just Frankenstein. And I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, and I mean, like you say, you talk about like how it was like a homage and stuff like that, but not only that, but it improved upon issues that I have genuinely with the whole Frankenstein thing. Because every time they create the monster, it's usually in some like dingy basement, some underground lab or something like that. But we all know that lightning always strikes the highest point. And they go to that next level with this movie by elevating the corpse up into the highest point in the sky. And I was like, yeah, that's cool, man. Like, yeah, do that shit. That's how it should be when you're trying to make lightning strike something. You go for the highest point.
Yeah, and this is where the movie takes a drastic turn for me, a drastic twist in everything. Because if you've never seen this before, like this moment where she comes down and he pulls that sheet off of her, and it's just
such a slut for having those eyelashes, and then they have a tiny little waist on top of it. Whore.
like her appearance is fabulous, and he's like, oh, and says her name. She's like, want to go on a date? Got any money? And like when he says no, she like pushes him away and like very much Frankenstein walks out of the door, and she's walking back to the neighborhood that she comes from because she's got all of the other hookers
Memories and stuff like that. Yeah, it's like all like an intertwining web. She's got brief moments of herself, and then you start to see reflections of various character tropes from the other prostitutes that we've seen throughout the film. Like they all have their own little sort of catchphrase that come up every now and again as they're introduced, and she starts to do those, like as in like to basically say, "Look, I'm a bit of everybody."
Yeah.
Up until the point where she isn't, obviously later on.
When she gets back to that area, the old guy, she's like she's trying to find someone to have sex with because she, in her mind, is now a hooker, and she finds that small, dumpy old guy who, when he sees her, he's like,
I'm gonna come.
I thought,
yeah, he looks like the guy from the Human Centipede too.
Yeah, and she takes him up to the room, and he's like, "This is amazing," and she's just regurgitating lines we've heard from other hookers, which is brilliant because nothing she says makes any sense to him, and he's just going with it, going, "Yeah, I'll be the doctor, I'll be Jeffrey, I'll be whatever you want me to be." And then she has sex with him, and it kills him by electrocution.
But he even says himself, even though he gets decapitated through the electrocution, he even says it was worth it, or like the greatest time of his life, or something like that, with his decapitated corpse head in her hands, as he says it. It was fucking funny, man.
Yeah.
So funny. Like it didn't even deserve to be that funny, but I proper laughed my ass off.
I did, and then she robs him, and then she kisses someone in the hallway and kills them. And she sort of ends up working her way back to the bar where the Zorro, the pimp, is from.
Yeah.
And this I love. Like this whole segment in this bar is comedy gold. Like that guy's coming on to, oh, come sit with me. And like he's being really leery and like touching her and stuff, and she's a zombie. She's not quite sure what's going on, and he gets under the table, and he puts his tongue somewhere he shouldn't put his tongue, and like he gets electrocuted so much that it lifts his legs off the floor. I was crying with laughter.
I don't get the whole where she kills people. Like I don't get that. Again, that was another thing that I would have liked to have seen expanded on a little bit more. I think that's
She's
one of my overall
electrified.
disappointments with this movie is there is so much more that could have been done. And
Yeah.
I'm not disappointed by the overall quality of where we got to and how we got there. I'm not saying that at all, but I feel like there is such a level of scope that could have been achieved that wasn't, and this was something that kind of was a bit of a bugbear for me. I was like, it's just like a cheap little lightning effect. I still laughed. I still enjoyed it. It was great. I just think my mind just went a little bit of a wandering at these points, and I was like, it would have been cool if you'd have done this, or if it would have been cool if you'd have done that. Do you know?
Yeah, and long and short of this, like she gets her head knocked off, which is brilliant. And this is where Jeffrey arrives and just kind of like pushes her head back on, and they go back to her house, but the pimp follows them. The closing segments of this movie, what the actual fuck? So the pimp's there and he's going to kill Jeffrey, and then she knocks over the tank or the chest freezer that's got all the body parts of all the other hookers.
Yeah, so we should state now as well, like there's a big part though in this that Jeffrey planned on resurrecting all the rest of the prostitutes.
Yeah.
It was like, I need bits of you, but I promise I'll bring you all back. And then when the whole lightning strike happened, the parts that were in the freezer also got struck by the lightning. It also conducted the electricity. So they became reanimated body parts, if you will, even though they were just body parts. But
can you explain
when we
what
get
comes
to the end?
Explain to me what comes out of this freezer, because I tried to explain what these were and I just couldn't.
It's just melding body parts of prostitutes. But again, these were the moments where I was like, oh yeah, now I can see that this is the director of Basket Case, because that looks like something you would put in the movie Basket Case in a basket.
Yeah, but you've got one of these which is an upside down torso with bare exposed breasts, and where the lady parts would go, there is a mouth that's going, want to go on a date? Want to go on a date? Like it was so off. I'm like, what is, and I'm sat there going, do I like this?
I loved
it. You were like this.
It came all over the place.
In this melee, the pimp Zorro dies, and Jeffrey dies as well. And Jeffrey being brought back, so we get the bit where Jeffrey has a conversation with Frankenhooker. She kind of snaps out of all the different personalities, and she's just herself. And he explains to her that he's upgraded her, and he's made her better by giving her bigger boobs and skinnier legs and all these other bits. And he's like, but I've done it because I love you, and now we can be together. And then when he dies, she reanimates him. And when he comes back, she's like, you left perfect notes, but you said you could only do this with female body parts. But it's fine because I've upgraded you and I've made you better. And it's all because I love you. And he's there with a massive pair of tits.
I mean, he seems like he's got a good deal. I'll be honest with you. I know I would be thoroughly entertained if I was him.
If I all of a sudden grew boobs overnight, I think the chances of me leaving the house would reduce drastically. Just be boobs. Like I'm a guy, you're a guy. We like playing with boobs. If I had my own boobs, I'd be sat there like squeezing them while watching TV. I'll be walking around town, like playing. Like we're not designed to have boobs for that exact reason.
But again, like, where's the line, man? If they're your boobs, does that make you gay? I don't want to go there, but if that's the case, we need to dissect it.
I'm not entirely sure, and I think that's a perfect time for us to take a break.
When you finish this episode, why not head over to yourunpodcast.com and check out some other shows. For some additional horror content, Podcast in the Woods is a great destination. Hosted by Gabby and Boomer, this horror movie review show boasts regular guests and honest opinions. Highly entertaining and at times hilariously funny, Podcast in the Woods is top-tier horror content. Or why not check in for some super nostalgic moments with Pop Culture Reflections podcast? This show is hosted by Justin and covers everything that has influenced pop culture in every decade. Films, music, TV shows, and professional wrestling all make regular appearances along with fabulous guests. This show is a must-listen. These and many other incredible shows all available at yourunpodcast.com. Your home of awesome entertainment.
That's right. We are the home of awesome entertainment. I've coined that. That's what I'm using now. YouRunPodcast.com. Go and check out the other network members. There's a whole host there. And come January, there's going to be a whole host more. Everything from true crime to horror. Like, we've got everything. So go to YouRunPodcast.com. Check out the other shows. While you're there, check out our shop and buy something as well. Facts for this. I could have literally done an entire episode on facts because this made me so happy. So this film cost $1.5 million to make.
Wow.
Now, when they got to the point they wanted to explode all the hookers, they had spent all of their money, every penny. And this led the director to turn around to producers and go, this is genuinely a quote he said in a production meeting. How am I supposed to explode 5 hookers with no budget? And they went, well, that's your problem. So he dealt with a guy who was an unlicensed pyrotechnic. So he knew how to use explosives, but he didn't have a license for it. And the director remembers him saying, don't worry, it's maybe safe.
It's maybe safe.
It's maybe safe. And that's when they exploded everything. And apparently the whole cast and crew were like hidden behind stuff, like genuinely panicked that they were going to die because they just had this random guy rock up with loads of explosives go, yeah, it'll be all right. We'll stick a bit in there, but yeah, it'll be fine. Right. Ready? Bang.
God bless the late 80s, man.
Yeah. So Elizabeth, which is Franken's girlfriend, her last name is Shelley, which is an homage to Mary Shelley, who wrote the original Frankenstein. Where Jeffrey goes looking for ladies of the night, this is an area which is now called Tribeca, and it was a very different area then to what it is now. All of the ladies in the moving shots are actual prostitutes, and the director couldn't offer them any money to give them a part. So instead, he helped them become members of the Screen Actors Guild.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, that's an actual genuine place because it looks like Skid Row from the Little Shop of Horrors.
No, that was a genuine place which is now called Tribeca. But all of those, like when he's driving through, all the hookers and all the pimps and stuff on the street they're the real deal. There's no actors there. They're the real McCoy.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. This film had massive issues with the MPAA, which you mentioned briefly earlier. When they submitted it, the head of the board, who's Richard Hempfer, sent them an email or a message, wouldn't have been an email in 1990, or a message that said, congratulations, this is the first film I want to rate S for shit. In the end, they gave it an unrated. They refused to even give it an X rating. They're like, no, this doesn't even deserve a stamp. It's unrated. That's all you get.
See, that's the thing with like stuff like that. I never really understood the qualifications of ratings and things like that. And it's only as I've gone more and more on my horror journey and learned as we've done the podcast and things like that, how important those ratings actually are.
Yeah.
Because things like an unrated movie can't then be advertised. Like you can't, like in newspapers where you see advertisements for latest movies coming out, obviously now we've got trailers and things like that on YouTube. But back in the day, the way to advertise a movie was in the latest newspaper and things. If you didn't gain a certain particular rating, you weren't allowed to have advertising.
Yeah. Which then hobbled your movie and you made no money.
Yeah, because it didn't come out to a wider audience. Nobody knew about it and stuff like that. So it's really interesting now, as in hindsight, to understand these things and understand how important it was. Because when I'm looking back on things and you see like, oh yeah, people are like, oh, we need to get this particular rating, or we need to turn that back so we can get this rating. Especially when you're talking about things where they come out later on and they have like director's cuts and stuff like that. I'm like, well, why not just release that in the first place? And it's like,
Yeah.
it's not because they don't want to; it's because they're trying to succumb to advertising standards so they can produce and make sure that their movie's seen and seen by more people.
Yeah.
Which is just
Which
a
is
really interesting thing in hindsight. So for those of you that don't know, then look into it because it's really, really interesting and
yeah,
makes a
which
lot
is
more sense when you talk about certain movies.
yeah, and it's one of the reasons that you, me, and the bulk of the horror community support people like Damien Leone who just do their own
Yeah.
thing. Go, nah, I don't need you. Shove your rating up your ass. I don't need it. I can do it without you. Like,
Well, yeah,
it's
like
so
the last one that I know other than Damien Leone is Adam Green, who did the Hatchet franchise.
yeah.
He got scuppered by the NSPCC or whatever it is. I don't know. I can't remember the old anagram thing.
MPAA.
That's the one. That's the one that I was on about. Yeah, like he did the first original Hatchet movie, and they pulled him. They pulled him from theaters and everything. They
Yeah.
wouldn't do anything with it, and he ended up financing his own thing to get that movie out there, and it went on to spawn like 4 or 5 sequels. And after the success of the first one, they're all like screaming at him, being like, "Oh no, no, no! We take it back. Come and release it in theaters for your sequel." It's like, "No, fuck you! You did me dirty the first time." I mean, that's exactly what Damien Leone's done. You know, like
Yeah.
you did
And
me dirty and you weren't willing to support me, so I'll just make the success on my own. Look at him now. Like Terrifier 3 is one of the most successful movies of 2024.
yeah, $100 million plus for a $2 million movie, which is
It's
mind
insane,
bending.
isn't it?
What else is mind bending? Dario Argento said this is one of the best films made in 1990.
Also, a quote by Bill Murray: "If you're going to watch one movie this year, go and watch Frankenhooker."
Yeah. My final one for this, because it leads to a picture. Before getting into acting, Patty Mullen in 1987 was the Penthouse Pet of the Month for the month of August 1986. Now, have you ever seen Patty Mullen when she's not Frankenhooker and when she's out of costume?
I'm still stuck on the fact that you said pet of the month. What's pet of the month?
So Penthouse had their Pet of the Month, which was the hot young lady that got the front cover. They refer to them as Pet of the Month.
Oh man, that's wrong on so many levels.
It's horrific.
I'm
But
not going to
for
dive into that, but yeah, go
no,
on.
for those of you watching on YouTube or watching on Spotify, this is what Patty Mullen looked like in 1986. And get ready to hear Mark say something along the lines of "fuck."
Holy shit! Wow, that is a goddess of a woman right there.
Yeah, 100%. Like it blew my mind. Like when I found that fact, I was like, so the fact was, before getting into acting in 1987, Patty Mullen was Penthouse Pet of the Month in August 1986. To which I instantly went to Google and went, Patty Mullen, August 1986. And it brings up the full, that's the only one I can show on social media. The others are what you would expect from Penthouse magazine in the 80s.
Considering how great she looks there, she doesn't look half as great in this movie, and she looks great in this movie, by the way. I'm not saying she doesn't. I'm just saying the contrast between the two. Wow.
Yeah. Let's do caption this. So we've got caption this, we've got TikTok talks, and we've got a game today. So we got the full house.
I'm not playing Broken Spirit again.
No, you're not. It's a fun game. Don't worry. Caption this: Mike the Movie Misfit. This was the caption this we put out. It was this one here. I'll leave it there and block mine and Mark's face while I tell you. Mike the Movie Misfit. When someone says, I didn't know A Nightmare on Elm Street 2010 was a remake. And they're a film account. Bloody Babble, Ice Cream Headache. And they're a horror account. Dewey Podmonster went with lines from the film that work perfectly. Want a date? Got any money? Looking for some action? And that's Dewey Podmonster, member of the You Run Podcast Network. I'm going to drop that down now because it's weird not seeing Mark. And the last one is from Mark's nemesis, randomly Eric. When he turns up the remote control in your panties to max power because you won't shut up about Mercury being in microwave again. Yeah, it works. And
I just
Eric
need
is,
to put a little message out to Eric at the moment as well. I'm just letting you know you're about to be replaced by Dave B Movies. So bring your game, man. Your time is over.
your heyday of being the hater is finished.
Yeah, you're about to be replaced, my friend.
Let's do some TikTok talk. So we're going to start with Dave, and then we're going to play the wonderful video Grandpa that I want to share. So let's kick off with Dave.
Oh, Frankenhooker. Well, where to start? I literally watched this film last week because I knew Scott, you was about to review it and play it as an episode. So I thought, well, I can't listen to the episode and not seen it. And yeah, I don't quite know what to say. It's fun. It's very dated. It's insane. I really, I'm almost lost for words for it. But yeah, no, I am. I'm lost for words. It's a hot mess, but it is so much fun. And I'm probably going to watch it at least another 20 times in the next 6 months. It's a big steaming pile of fun, hot mess. I think that probably covers it.
Said like a true Battle Royale fan.
Oh, that's harsh. It's stunned and lost for words, which, to be fair, is most people's first reaction. Like when we messaged when you were watching this, you messaged me, I don't quite know what to say.
Yeah.
Right, let's move on to this video. So this is a video that Lady Crisis made with Grandpa around the time we done Sharknado and Deep Blue Sea. And when I stumbled across it again today, I actually felt bad that I didn't share it at the time. So I'm going to share it now.
Trying to get Grandpa to watch a horror movie, and it's been really challenging this time. Every movie I've put on, he just gets up and walks out. So, needless to say, I'm going to switch it up a little bit tonight. He did watch Jaws the last time he was here, and he enjoyed it, so I'm going to make him watch Deep Blue Sea tonight. Scott and Mark, let's see which one he likes better. Grandpa, we're going to watch this movie, Deep Blue Sea. Okay, let's do it. Wow, that was a lot of action, and you checked your watch in the middle of all that. Well, Grandpa, what did you think? Oh, you liked it? Did you like it better than Jaws, or did you like Jaws better than that one? He had a lot of blood, huh? Did you like Jaws better or this one? Jaws. You like this one better? Yeah. Deep Blue Sea for the win. You gonna go to bed now? You want a glass of wine? You want some popcorn? Too many questions?
I knew there was a reason I love that man.
Yeah, Grandpa prefers Deep Blue Sea, and I love that video, especially at the end. It's like, do you want some wine? Do you want to go to bed? Do you want popcorn? And he's sort of staring at Lady Crisis like, give me a second. Like I'm trying to digest what I just watched. I'm trying to come to terms with the fact I said it was better than Jaws. Like you can't.
To be fair to him, all of the options is a yes. So he's like, I want all of those things.
Yeah, Mary, if we come to your house, we want to watch Jaws and Deep Blue Sea, and we want popcorn and we want wine.
No, we just want to watch Deep Blue Sea and have popcorn and wine. We don't need to watch Jaws.
Well, there is that. Again, sending all the love in the world to Mary, and
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. That was a nice video, that man. That was really, really cool. And it's nice to know he was Team Jaws, Team Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Shame on you for hiding that video because
Yeah,
it didn't suit your narrative at the
and,
time.
and hidden for 18 months as well, if not longer.
Fucking hell, man.
Right, let's move on. With these movies, November's getting a little bit more niche, so we're doing all these like weird and wonderful movies, and it gave me an idea for a new game. Now, this game is called You're a Whore.
You are a smelly pirate hooker.
Yeah. Um, I'm going to share with Mark the name of a celebrity, and all he needs to do is tell me if they've ever played a prostitute on screen. There's
Oh, wow.
1 point if he gets it right, and there's a bonus point if you can tell me the film. If you score 10 points at some point, at a point of your choosing, you can tell me to tee up the Broken Spirit music, and I will play it, and you can quiz me, and I will just go with it. If you do not get 10 points, next week for our episode, it will be the return of That's Not My Pod.
I don't want to play that game anymore, man.
It can go on forever. If you don't want to play it and you want to quiz me instead, you need to do well with this. So I'm going to give you a celebrity
okay.
and just yes or no if they've played a prostitute, and you get an extra point for telling me the film. If they've been in more than one film, and you can get more than one film where they've played a prostitute, you can have additional points.
Right, okay.
We're
If you
gonna
don't open with Julia Roberts, then this quiz is a shambles.
I'm going to kick off with Anya Taylor-Joy.
Ooh.
Is she a whore or not a whore?
This is awful, man. I don't like this game. I'm going to say not a whore. I don't think she's done prostitution. I don't think so. She hasn't done a lot, and what she has done has been quite sophisticated stuff. I don't think Anya Taylor-Joy has. So I'm going to say not a whore.
That is incorrect. She's been a whore twice, in The Menu and in Last Night in Soho.
She was. And I was thinking of The Menu as well, and I was like, is she actually hired?
Yeah,
she's hired. She's an escort, isn't she? Oh,
yeah.
Fuck.
Number 2, Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Oh, America's Sweetheart. But also, she's perfectly equipped for it. I'm going to say a whore.
She has been a whore. Do you have any idea what movie?
I don't know, unfortunately.
No. Okay, so that's 1 point. She was a whore in The Client List. Tom Hanks.
No, surely not. Woody from Toy Story? He's not been a male escort in anything.
This is
Philadelphia. Is he a male escort in Philadelphia?
He's not, and I just said you got it right. So yeah, he's not a whore.
Oh, okay.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Although he is an actual whore, I'm going to say no.
That is also incorrect.
Man, I suck at this game.
He prostituted himself out in the movie The Basketball Diaries.
I haven't seen that.
Isn't
that the one where he first had like major beef with, is it Marky Mark?
Yeah, and he gets, he's a drug addict. It's a really good film. Really good. Really dark, but really good. Courtney Cox.
Ooh, I love Courtney Cox. Courtney Cox, epitome of Courtney Cox was like Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and early seasons of Friends. She was like a goddess. I'm going to say no.
That's correct. An extra point. You're on 3 points now. Charlize Theron.
Ooh, yes, because she is a prostitute in the movie Monster, where she plays. Who's the serial killer she plays in Monster?
Eileen Wuornos. And yeah, you're correct. So
Eileen
2
Wuornos,
points for
yes.
that. So you're halfway to where you need to go, and you're exactly halfway through the quiz.
All right, still time.
Question number 7. Heather Graham.
Heather
of Austin
Graham.
Powers fame.
Oh, it took me ages to think of who you meant then for some weird reason. Yes, but I can't think of the movie where she does.
That's correct. You're now on 6 points. And the movie was From Hell with Johnny Depp.
Yes. There you go. That's the one I was thinking of.
Number 8, David Arquette.
Really?
Yeah.
I've only known him fight Ghostface and really big spiders. And that weird phase he went through in his life where he's a wrestler. So I'm going to say no.
That's correct. You're now on 7. Oh, this is getting tighter than I hoped it would be. Number 9, Hilary Swank.
Hilary Swank. What do I know Hilary Swank from? The latest thing I've seen Hilary Swank from was The Hunt, which she was like a super business model. She strikes me as a type of person who would be really fit for like Requiem for a Dream, where she's like some sort of crackhead. Maybe that's just a whole crackhead aesthetic she's got going on. I'm going to say yes. Her, that
Yes.
bitch.
Any idea what movie?
No, she's not really that important.
It was Quiet Days in Hollywood.
Never heard of it.
Question 10, Helen Bonham Carter.
Oh man, she's straight up hoe in life. I don't know what movie she is, but anything with Tim Burton, she is a hoe.
Unfortunately, that is incorrect. She has never played a prostitute on screen.
What? Not even in Demon Fleet Street of Barber, whatever it is.
Nope, not once. She was a pie maker in that. 2 left, and you need 2 points. So get
so
1 point.
The yes and the movie.
You've got 2 left, or multiple movies. So number 11, Sharon Stone.
Oh, I feel like that's a trick question because, like, yes, definitely, but also at the same time, do I have roles qualified? Because, like, Fatal Attraction and stuff like that, like, yeah,
she wasn't
her material, but she wasn't a prostitute in that movie.
She wasn't a prostitute in that movie.
Oh man, she was in The Specialist with Sylvester Stallone. Was she a prostitute in that? This is a difficult. I'm going to say no. But I'm scared to say no.
It's incorrect. She was a prostitute in the movie Casino. So
I love Casino as well. How did I not know the answer to
that? Your last question, and you need to get this correct and the movie to beat me.
Right, okay.
Rob Schneider.
Yes, The Bachelor. No. Male Gigolo, Juice Bigelow is a movie.
That's correct. So yes, you've got it right, and you've beaten me. So you can now let me know a couple of days before you want to quiz me, and I will tee up the Broken Spirit music, and it's there available.
No. There will be no preparation involved. It will be a random episode, and I'll say, cue the music. Boom, it's go time, bitch.
So okay, so at some point in the coming weeks, months, years, whatever it may be, you are going to hear Mark say, cue the music, and you're going to hear this.
I have a feeling you thought I was going to fail that quiz then.
I genuinely did. I thought you'd be 1 or 2 shy. Like I wrote it so you'd get close, but I didn't think you'd tip. Congratulations, I suppose, is the correct term. I'm taking this first. This is a classic B movie. It ticks every box I want this type of box to tick, from practical effects being not quite right, but thoroughly enjoyable. The stupid, crazy, ridiculous storyline and script that come out of a very drug-filled production office somewhere. The acting, especially Patty Mullen, I think is solid across the board. There's so much that this movie done that was ahead of its time. In like there's segments in this movie where they highlight the dangers of being a prostitute and how women should have more rights and more protections. And at the same time, it's so outdated in its tone. It's like going back to an early 80s movie. It's got that 1982 to 84, like grimy aesthetic to it. And I unapologetically love this. It is top tier for how good this type of movie can be. If you haven't seen it, add this to your watch list. And I'm quietly confident, even knowing what we've told you now, we will never do this justice. You're going to walk out when you stop that movie. You're going to have a good couple of minutes where you sit on your sofa and you go, what the fuck did I just watch? It's going to leave you speechless like it did Dave. It's a 5 out of 5. I love this film.
A solid score, man. I don't know if it deserves quite the 5 out of 5. I mean, for me, I think it's a strange movie because it's a trauma movie, but it's a high-end trauma movie, which is something I've never experienced before. I've seen a fair few trauma movies. I'm not well versed in the genre by any means, but I've seen a couple, and the ones that I have seen always feel like they're recorded by like some sort of high school students and thrown together in the art department in terms of practical effects. So going into this and seeing the Roger Corman opening and then diving straight into what seems like a full-fledged production with decent cinematography, decent directing, decent cast, especially decent cast. I mean, the lady who plays Frankenhooker and especially the guy who plays Jeffrey Franken. Wow, incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible for the overall tone of this movie. I was blown away at how much investment I managed to give to both of those characters for a movie that probably really doesn't require it. It's a silly tone and it's taking a well-established concept and turning it on its head in a way that's trauma suitable. And I think they do a good job of doing that. I really, really do. I think the way that they handle the narrative is great. And again, I can't really criticize it. Even the practical effects side of things, like I'm a B movie lover. You guys know this about me. That is my wheelhouse. I love shit movies because that's where I get my enjoyment. I get my enjoyment at either laughing at the quality of the delivery from the cast or laughing at the quality of the effects. You know, that kind of brings that happy balance to me from what is categorized as horror, which is supposed to shock and scare you. Don't get me wrong. I
Yeah.
love a genuine scare fest when we get them and they're done right. But if not, and I want some free and easy watching, then I tend to go for something that's more B movie graded because it has a perfect balance for it. It's got the right status quo that I like from my horror movies. And this delivers on that perfectly. But I was just surprised by the quality and overall aesthetics from a trauma movie to have such a high standard. My only really, really big criticisms of this movie is the duration of it. I'll be honest with you. I think that this is a movie that spends an hour setting everything up, which is done perfectly. We spend an hour listening to Jeffrey Franken build up what he's going to do and how he's going to do it, which is perfect. And I was engaged wholeheartedly for that first hour of the movie. But we get, with 20 minutes to go, the revitalization of his monster, and I feel like there's so much more to be developed there. Like I could sit and watch a 2.5, 3 hour take of this movie where they expand upon her rampage and all the rest of it. I feel like there's so much more that could be introduced to this movie that wasn't there, and that's not a criticism. That's really, really not a criticism. That's, if anything, that's a
compliment.
It's a compliment to the movie,
Yeah.
because like the
You
hour and
wanted
20
more.
minutes that I got from it was fucking brilliant, and I had such a good time watching it. I just wish there was more development, and I wish there was more, and I wish I could have stayed within this world that they'd set up and created for a longer period of time. I'm not going to give it a 5 out of 5 because I don't think that's just. I don't think I will ever find a trauma movie in my lifetime that it justifies a 5 out of 5 rating. Killer Condom claim close, and that was god tier level stuff. You know where I feel about that movie. I'll give it a 4 out of 5. I thought it was fantastic. I'm ashamed that I've sat on this movie for so long. I understand the cultural appreciation for this movie and why people dress up as they do for Frankenhooker for Halloween and all the rest of it, and at festivals and Comic Cons and all that. Like I get it now. I get it now, and I'm ashamed that I've sat on it for so long. I had such a good time with this movie, and I'll definitely watch it again in the future. Again, I just wanted to be immersed in it for longer than I was, and that's again not a problem with the movie. That was just me. I just wanted more from it.
Yeah.
And not that it did that. To say I wanted more from something feels
You just
like it
wanted more of
under-delivered
it.
on it. Yeah. Not that I wanted more from it because it didn't deliver on what it did. It was just I wanted to be immersed in this world for longer, and I feel like had a sequel would have been great. I don't know if this ever got a sequel, but I would take a sequel if they picked up immediately after the end of this movie and went on to another 2-hour tangent about this, and the two of them together as Frankenhooker people trying to navigate the world. I'd watch it because I thought this was great. Flawlessly executed, really, in terms of the tone of the movie.
Yeah, I love this. It is such a good movie. We're going to be back next week, with a movie that I'm going to share. It is a first watch for me. Is this a first watch for you?
Is this the Chainsaw one? Is that what we're doing next week?
Yeah. So
I own it. I own it on VHS. I bought it recently.
Yeah, so next week, me and Mark are going to bring you our review of Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers. There seems to be a theme this month.
Yes.
I have no idea. I've not seen a trailer. I've seen nothing about it. So I am going in blind.
It's got Gunnar Hansen in it, which is why it's called Chainsaw Hookers, because he's Leatherface, obviously, in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He is wielding chainsaws as well as prostitutes in this movie. I've seen a brief trailer. I'll be honest with you, you could go and watch this trailer for this movie right now and probably still have no idea what this movie has to offer you other than boobs, chainsaws, and Gunnar Hansen.
Well, we have a good movie to review next week. But until then, thank you so much for everyone who listens and supports us. It genuinely means a lot. And we care about all of you the same as you care about us. And thank you for all the support you give. Have a wonderful week, and we will be back next week where we talk about Gunnar Hansen, boobs, and chainsaws. That's like the perfect tee up. And if this is the first time listening and you've loved this episode, now is where you go click subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening, so you get a notification that when we talk about Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers.
Exactly.
We'll see you next week.
Cheers, guys. See you next week.
Bye.
You want to die tonight?
Late at night, I turn into your show, where you talk horror with a unique flow. Your voice is like sirens, draws me in, as you pick apart movies all murder and sin. The dad jokes you tell sets the scene. I hang on every word, lost in the screen. Your passion for fear is contagious enough. You make me believe in Mark's overblown roundups. You run podcasts or a movie review, unveiling facts and playing games too. Your words paint pictures of darkness and dread, leaving me grinning long after I fled. But you run podcasts. You run podcasts or a movie review, unveiling facts and playing games too. Your words paint pictures of darkness and dread, leaving me grinning long after I fled. Thank you for taking us on this chilling ride, when nightmares roll free and comedy collide. With your podcast we laugh and cringe, but your content is so good we can't help but binge. You run podcasts. You run podcasts.
I'm gonna come.